Welcome everyone. This is my analysis of the Hermanus Rapid 2025. As you might have seen, I ended 5th in this tournament. Matty won this one and Watu came 2nd. And yeah, let's have a quick look at how to improve. So I took a few interesting games, but mostly, okay, I took all of the games that I dropped points because that is usually where you should start off, right? It's good to go through all your games, but I selected all the games where I dropped points. So I lost the game to Watu, I lost the game to Matty, and I drew to Paul Fondensburg. So, and then I just threw in another game for just entertainment value, some nice game that I won. So let's start off with the game I played against Watu. So in this one, I definitely just got a hint that I should just check my theory. And also a bit of rust with the rapid. So I had the black pieces and Watu played his usual Lopez. Going down the main line, the rookie 1, B5. And everything's pretty standard over here. And then he, I cannot say really he's completely surprised me with this move, but I just purely didn't look at this theory because I didn't simply prepare for this tournament, right, in that fashion or that depth where D4 is, of course, not the main move. Pawn to H3 is the main line, and you have lots of ways to continue. You can play Knight A5, like the Chigoran variation that I believe Watu also likes to play a lot. You have Bishop B7. You have even a move like H6 or even Knight B8, like Magnus then play. Yes, Knight B8 looks a bit weird, but the point is you're going to go to D7 next. But White went D4, and clearly he's allowing me to go Bishop G4. And of course, I know this is the main move, but I didn't really know anything after that. So after D5, Knight A5, Bishop C2, all that I could remember is pawn to C6. And then the idea that I had in mind, or which I saw, is that after pawn takes pawn, it looks natural to capture like this. But in fact, black should play queen C7 and later on play queen takes C6, right? And after a move like H3, the bishop drops all the way back to C8, and you could see something like this happen, where this knight actually goes to C4 at some point. The bishop can go somewhere like that. Black has a pretty decent position here. So after C6, Watu actually played H3 first, and this completely threw me off because I am not so sure about the theory here. So I was thinking to myself, so this is I'm gonna give you now a honesty calculation here. So I thought I couldn't remember where to put the bishop, right? And now looking at the queen C7 takes and queen C7, I kind of figured that the bishop can't go to D7 because the pawn is still there. But I was asking myself here, shouldn't the bishop have gone here or here? If I go bishop C8, I had some random calculation here that after this queen C7 and A4, for some reason I was worried that the knight was going to hang. So if I take here and takes, then, so let's say takes, and I take back, and then B4, and I was worried that the rook is hanging. But in fact, the queen is just protecting over there, right? And this specific variation or line with A4 could have happened in the original variation that I showed you guys, right? So it's just purely not knowing the line well enough and just very rusty calculation. And yeah, okay, just to point out, of course, A4 doesn't do any damage because the queen is protecting the rook. So I can just gladly play Knight C4. That B4 would, of course, be a positional blunder or mistake. And black should be okay here. So then I started to think too much, burn too much time here. And you shouldn't be in a strange position or unfamiliar position against Watu in a rapid specifically. Okay, with the long game, I can kind of figure things out, use some time, but I knew I didn't want to play bishop h5. Even though it's a move, I eventually played bishop h5 because the bishop can kind of be out of play here, and you'll see you'll see what I mean in a moment. But the alternative bishop d7 also doesn't look nice. There's an old trick that white can play here. Do you see the trick? Pause the video and see if you can find it. It doesn't really want material, but it does give white a little something. And if you want to actually see this trick in action, Watu himself kind of allowed this at the Olympiad in 2018, I believe, when we were playing think we were playing Kazakhstan. So he was playing some 2600 Grandmaster, and in some line where Watu had the black pieces, he allowed knight takes e5. So maybe it just slipped his mind at that point as well. But it happens to the best of us. And the point is that after pawn takes, then d6, the bishop is trapped. And I've seen some game where this happens after I checked, of course. And okay, material is equal, but white does have the bishop here. And maybe he can work with that in the long run. Right? Still seems like black and white. Maybe I should have done this. But in any case, so I started seeing a lot of ghosts and ended up playing bishop h5. And now the play is quite easy for white to play. So he takes queen c7, knight b2. So I'm still trying to go into what I think was the way to go. But now my bishop is slightly misplaced. The knight, of course, goes around, kicks the bishop. The bishop very sad. I don't want to just give up my bishop on f3. Because the light squares are going to be doomed, but alas, it's going to be doomed anyway. And the rest of the game, yeah, I was suffering. So not much to write home afterward. There was one moment where I actually think that I could have, which Watu pointed out, right? When he told me this after the game, immediately it struck because I was contemplating this g6 move the whole time. I ended up playing g6, and then I just busted out here because the tactics is working in white's favor. Right, and I lost pretty quickly here. But in fact, afterward, Watu told me, but why not just bishop takes h5? Bishop takes h5, queen takes h5, and then g6. Pretty forcing, and I'll be a piece up, right? If you check the engine's eval, yeah, it's minus 1.2. And yeah, all of a sudden, the dream from what I had, the position, of course, was poor, super poor. Way I handled the opening. So, of course, a learning curve here for me. In this opening experience, you sometimes need to gain some valuable experience. Best place to gain experience. Sometimes I think people get bad experiences with openings and then they drop it immediately. My suggestion would be to those hard losses, analyze them and come back stronger. And the best place to gain your experience is to play these lines against strong players because they're going to test you and play critical lines. So basically, I needed to recheck this. And yeah, you can even you can switch on the engine, and you can even open up the Leech's openings book here on the bottom, and you can check out. Okay, you can't see now because my face is all over the theory, but there's a lot of moves that you can look at. And bishop c8 is of course the main move, and the theory continues this way. So yeah, I definitely just had to do my homework with this opening and then take it from there basically. So I can't take this loss too hard. Didn't really have a game. So yeah, that was really disappointing, that loss against Watu. After that, I think I bounced back with a win against Kenny. I'll leave this one perhaps for last. Let's continue to look at where I dropped points, because this video is intended to show you how to improve from your mistakes. And so later on, I played against a guy that I haven't seen before, Paul Fondensburg. Apparently, he was quite the junior player with a nice rating as well. It says 1800 there, but I think his local rating is like 2100. And he was quite a performer at the tournament. He played quite well, and he was giving everybody a run for their money. And in fact, I narrowly escaped against him. I was busted for quite a while. But at this moment, I had the white pieces against him, and it kind of seems like this Grunfeld went wrong for him. He had just played knight to d7 over here, and I was just a bit too casual, perhaps, about this position. And what should white do here? What should white do? I eventually played pawn to e3, knight c6. I got my bishop out, and he played e5. So at the end of the day, perhaps I just underestimated the fact that my bishop on g3 is going to end up being very boxed in. And if we go back, and I hope you've noticed by now that I'm a pawn up, right? So maybe instead of e3, what should I do? Of course, b4 is an option. I just didn't like the idea of allowing a5 so early, opening up the rook. e4, g3. I need to just finish my development, right? So maybe e4. maybe e4, because eventually if he plays e5, like in the game, then perhaps I can thread back and go bishop e3. And this looks just winning, right? So if you look at what happened in the game, okay, and you know what, let's just check what the engine says again. So it's always useful to kind of contemplate by yourself and then switch on the engine. Engine says b4 is top move. b4 and then knight f6. Why not knight c6? Because of b5 and we are not holding back here. Knight b4 does nothing. Bishop d2 hitting the knight or a3. I kind of like a3 more. Why are we giving up the... it's a knight just trapped. c2 and the knight is a goner. So okay, you need to be quite aggressive to allow all of this. Another option instead of b4 I see is e4. Yes, instead of bishop b5, just plain old bishop b2. White is better, but I mean it's a 0.3 advantage, so black certainly has some compensation here, not completely just winning. Anyway, coming back to the game. So I went e3, bishop e5, e5, and now my bishop is already feeling very boxed in. h3, g5. So this storm here with the pawns is curbing my bishop, and this was the main problem for me in the game. This bishop being not the best piece, and I would have to do a lot of moves and effort to get him out. So a6. Here comes another important moment. Should I have captured on c6? I captured. I felt like I didn't want to waste time. And I thought that these pawns would be some targets in the long run. But of course, I knew I'm giving up the light squares. By giving up my light square bishop. Maybe I should just play like check here. If I go check and the king somewhere, now the pawn is hanging. Can't go b4. What to do? Bishop d5 perhaps. Knight b4 is also possibility. Is bishop e6. So I was just a bit lazy, I think, to come up with a move. Maybe bishop a4. That's another idea. Then eventually a3 and b4, right? So I just need to untangle with my pieces eventually. And I think this maybe helped him. So let's see what the engine says. Engine says bishop a4, bishop c4 check. Let's see, bishop check there, and then it says bishop d3. So clearly not a straightforward thing. Maybe you could put the bishop on d3 straight away. Bishop a4 was also possible. And I mean, the longer you look at it, the more you realize that maybe black's pieces, yeah. If I just look at it a bit longer, it's starting to make sense. Black doesn't have obvious moves. Knight b4. Hitting this, it's not even a threat because it was check, right? So maybe knight d3 is a threat. See, the engine says knight e1. This is maybe not the most straightforward way to play, right? And then a3. Kick the knight and then we can untangle again. So yeah, okay, black doesn't have much to do, eh? Knight f6, a3. Knight goes back to f3 or knight c3. We're good to go. So this type of position required a bit more patience and a bit more thought, I would say, and understanding. So again, this is the downside for me when it comes to the rapids. I don't have enough time just to settle in and sort out everything strategically. So yes, I captured on c6. And eventually I ended up in big trouble here with black having the bishops. And I was actually suffering the whole game through. Later on, my opponent even missed the chance to mate me. Let's scramble. Over somewhere here. Yeah. And he went and grabbed there, and I managed to squeeze a draw there. But in fact, my opponent should just go this route and checkmate me. I would have to play g3 and lose lots of material. In the end, I managed to squeeze a draw here. Out of, okay, g4 was not the last move. This was the position, but yeah. So understanding is required in that position. After I played e3 or something. Okay, two moments. First moment is over here. e3 was too casual. I needed to seriously consider my opponent's ideas, and this is one of them. So I needed to take care of this bishop. And then secondly, a6 was a big test. I should have actually been more restrained and realized that my opponent is more boxed in. Trading helps him in a sense. Okay, so that was an important learning curve. And then lastly, against a tournament winner. Last round, I was, of course, also in the mix. And if I could beat Matty, then maybe I could have ended joint first with Watu as well. So, yeah, I thought I had quite a nice start. I was quite happy with my position. English type of opening against Matty. He's not getting what he usually wants out of the opening, right? So it's a very quiet position. He played Queen D7. Excuse me. And what to do here for White? White has got a lot of plans. Obviously, Queen D7, he's got ideas of that. But that could be good, or there's some pluses and minuses with that move. It looks aggressive, but positionally speaking, there's some drawback that we'll touch in a moment. So White can either decide to castle, right? Or White can decide maybe to play b4 for now, pushing that. Or White can even play h3 to prevent that. But okay, then you can't castle because the pawn is hanging. On the other hand, what useful moves does Black have at the moment? He doesn't want to capture. Yeah, we can still continue to do stuff. b4, b5 with the bishop there. So this is very interesting stuff. At the end of the day, I castled. And I went for this idea. Now, I still can't remember where exactly in this book is this example of this. But it's a very nice book that's worth finding if you don't know it already. There's a book series. I don't know how many books these guys released, but Mark Voretsky, I think Arthur Yusupov was a co-author of this book, Positional Chess, something like this, pink cover. And in that book, there was this one example where also an English position where this is a typical idea, of course. Try and get it. In English, this is kind of like your pride and joy, the bishop and the light squares. But yeah, Black gets rid of it. But if you think about it, if you trade these bishops, Black is left with a technically bad bishop. Right. So eventually, if we trade here, I want to put this pawn on e4, and then that bishop will be stuck there. So what I did eventually is I decided to trade like this. I went in for forcing variation. I grabbed there and played e4. And the point is that the bishop is not good. So if I have enough time, I'm going to play bishop e3. I'm going to put my knight there. I guess I can put queen d2 there as well. My knight will jump in there eventually. And my bishop is always willing to trade off for the knight because Black will be stuck with a bad bishop over there. And essentially, I would like to trade queens as well. If I trade queens, then Black will be in a bad endgame. But the problem is Black's queen is quite active over there. And he actually, while I was looking at this, I kind of realized what Black's best continuation is. And of course, he found it. He found something nice. Okay, first of all, patching some light squares. Bishop e3 and bishop g7, and now Black is going for f5. And okay, now I don't want to allow f4, f3, f4 again. So I had to capture, and all of a sudden my opponent is threatening mate soon. So if we come back here, perhaps even at this moment after e4 and this, maybe I should consider something else here, the f4. That was not the point for me to open up the bishop, but let's hear what the engine says. f4, bishop e3, but the position is equal. Engine says f4, and then Black can, of course, capture. But this allows me to at least kick the queen away, but Black has an active bishop now and some squares to work with. So this is certainly not a completely one-sided game. Right? This is maybe, this is dead equal. It says Black is more than comfortable. So I clearly missed, I think one of the points is I shouldn't have taken over here. Maybe I can play e4 here as well. Maybe I can, because even if you do the same thing, right? Yeah, Black still can't play f5 because the bishop's hanging. So Black would have to do something like this, and maybe f5 now. Engine says Black is still better. Okay, I can do something like this. This is practically a bit better for me to hold, right? I think this is quite fine. f4, maybe the bishop drops back. But okay, so again, in the rapid game, these details not so easy to map out. It's easier to play attacking chess and instead of this refined positional type of moves. And eventually, after checking this game, I realized that perhaps I should have just played e4 straight away. This is the point, right? So I see that the bishop is going to get traded off. Why not just play e4 now? Because yeah, black has still a lot to do to play f5. He doesn't want to capture here, and then I'm going to bother his other knight. So if something like this, how to continue, right? If he goes g6, let's see what the engine says, f4. And there's a lot more pieces that's making the position interesting for me. Right? And the main point is that his queen is not coming. So e4 would have been the way to go. Of course, if black doesn't want to trade bishops anymore, let's say, then he has to drop back, right? Bishop g4 or something. But then I'm quite happy just continuing. I can even play f3 here, but okay. Probably f3 and bishop e3, right? But now black is not going to mate me at all or get close to me. I've got a very nice stance. f3, bishop e3, queen d2, b4, b5, etc. So yeah, I must play that, and eventually I got a passive position, and yeah, Matty just outplayed me there in the end. Yeah, I didn't really have a chance there with a 1 minute aside type of thing. He nicely outplayed me there. He's very fit when it comes to the short time control. So okay, so that was my losses and draw. Clearly, I need to work a bit on my calculation, not a bit, a lot on my calculation. I need to become more fit to handle these shorter time controls. Okay, we don't play these short time controls all the time, but I think lots to learn overall. If you don't take the results so seriously of these rapid games can actually be very useful to check what you need to work on. So if the sole purpose of playing some rapid games would be to learn what you know, what you don't, what you need to work on, I think I've got the most out of this event, and it was lots of fun playing in Hermanus and all of that. So, yep, I'm happy. And then just for fun here, guys, I added a game here that I played against Kenny Willenberg. Kenny, of course, had a nice tournament as well. But I think just against me, seemed a bit off, maybe a bit tired already by this point. And perhaps not, I think he didn't find himself in an opening that he also did. The opening was unfamiliar to him, it seemed. So in this position, he went knight f1. I went d5, queen e2, and I went d4. So it seems like white has allowed black too much space in this position. It already looks quite nice for black. He went h3, and my natural instinct is to go bishop h5. Right? I was actually contemplating this quite seriously, because then, okay, he's obviously going to go knight c3, I go back, and maybe I go e5, maybe I go knight d7, or maybe I still go for the plan that I had in the game, which is taking on c3. But the bishop here doesn't look so great. So I went for another idea here that I've seen somewhere, which is capture. Okay, I don't want to give my light square bishop up, but I want to save time. I castle. He goes knight g3, very natural. Of course, my opponent's bishop on c2 doesn't look that great. That's why I can give up my light square bishop. Right? I capture, then look at this. Usually you don't give up your center like this, but the point is I capture, then I go b4. So this is a maneuver worth remembering. I've used it quite a bit in Rai Lopez, especially against the Warrel attack, if it's called that. This Rai Lopez with queen e2. Or sometimes white can give black a lot of space where you're getting d5, c5, b5, and you can play d4 and do this. So after b4, I am, of course, fighting for that d4 square. And my opponent should have probably played bishop a4 here. And I should consider maybe protecting it or playing knight a7, doing stuff like that. But he went e5 in a rush. Of course, it looks juicy. But I have knight d5, of course, and now the c3 square is just completely collapsing. I don't know if he could have maybe even played bishop d2 just to cover that square. But knight d5, and now maybe just panicking a bit here, my opponent realized, okay, the square is falling. He doesn't want to play c4, because I'm going to get him knight d4, right? And my knight is a monster. And then my other knight can move in wherever he wants to. So he decided, okay, he's going all in with knight h5. And now I need to, of course, double check first. Is there any checkmate ideas? Can he sacrifice on g7? His queen is going to come in. So I decided, okay, after some pondering there, I realized, okay, it's not a fatal threat yet. So I took on c3 and now creating the square yet again. Queen G3, threatening mate in 1. I went G6 and Bishop H6. And yeah, okay, I was quite relaxed already. Just always need to make sure that I keep up on the clock calculation. Like I said, not always so crisp, but just from a positional sense, I was quite happy because, okay, I've won a pawn. My opponent's pawns don't look great. Dark squares look weak. My knights have potentially a lot of good squares. So I need to watch this knight. And I wasn't bothered about this bishop. I don't know, maybe I can play rook e8, but it actually just didn't enter my mind. I just continued knight d4, hitting the bishop, threatening a mean fork over there. And he grabbed my rook. And yeah, to be honest, I was actually contemplating on playing bishop takes first. And then I asked myself, okay, queen takes. And I'm pretty sure after a move like bishop takes, black should be good, because this knight's going to have to run at some point. Then I put my bishop there, potentially. My knights are still good. I've got a threat over there. But then I realized I can actually do something even better. Do you see the move? Pause and see if you can find it. Okay, let's see. Knight takes c2 looks interesting, but he's going to grab over there, right? So what I actually did is I played king takes f8. King takes f8, very nice move, threatening the bishop and all of a sudden threatening the knight. And yeah, okay, the rest of the game was relatively easy, right? Because I have what's the material now? I've got 2 pieces for a rook. I should just not get mated, and I found this nice queen g5 move. Cannot take on h7, of course, because I have this with check and there's still no mate. So I got to trade. He played this g3 move, of course. If I play bishop g5 with my queen, he has f4. But after I played bishop d8, he resigned over here since okay, black has a straightforward idea of bishop over there and bishop there, queen, so it's not a lot happening for white. But I think that my opponent kind of fell prey to what I fell prey to against Watu. It's just, like I said, not knowing the opening and kind of messing it up from the get-go. So, yeah, those were a few interesting moments. Lots to learn, like I said. Don't be discouraged by rapid games results unless you are planning on becoming the world rapid champion or your main focus is rapid games. Rather use rapid games as a tool to improve your long game. See where your weaknesses were and try to work on that. So theoretically, I need to work on some opening there and calculation, of course, the speed of my calculation and understanding some certain positional features faster. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my my analysis of my own tournament. If you have any thoughts, any ideas, any comments on what you would like to look at, or if I missed anything, or if you want to add anything, please feel free to throw your comments in the chat. And yeah, I hope you liked it. Feel free to press that subscribe button as well. Help us to get to 1,000 subscribers. And I think that's that. Chess, Noses, and Analysis. See you for the next video. Cheers.